Okay, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us in our very first Inven Global IGEC 2020 digital panel. First, I just want to thank everyone for being so flexible with this whole thing. Full disclosure, this is my first time ever running this sort of stream, and it's actually quite ironic because all of our panelists are experts at this, right? All of our panelists have done this stuff in their sleep, so they would actually been helping me with this whole process before we started. So thank you guys so much. Things are very strange now, right? I think that's something everyone can agree on, but hopefully the goal of this panel and many other panels to come is to, lead with 1 foot forward. There's a lot of things we can do, even though there's some stuff we can't, right? We can't go to tournaments, we can't all see each other in person, but we can have panels like this. So without any further ado, I would love to introduce our panel. To start, I'd like to introduce Scott Adametz. He serves as the Esports Tech Lead at Riot Games, and let me just say, if you have read his pedigree, he's probably the perfect person to be talking about how we use technology to bring gaming and esports into a better place despite all of this this quarantine. So Scott, thank you so much for being here.
Very pleased to be here. Thank you for having us.
Next, we have, many of you may know him as simply a PogChamp, but it's Gootecks, Ryan Gutierrez, the face of Cross Counter TV. He leads the team to make some pretty extraordinary fighting game content, and he's been a part of the fighting game community for as long as I can even remember. Ryan has some pretty strong ideas on what people should be doing now if they want to get ahead in esports and gaming despite the current ecosystem, so I really look forward to what he has to say. Thank you so much for being here, Ryan.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for the kind words. Now I got really big shoes to fill. Now we got expectations.
Oh man. Well, you know what? That is the one thing too. The expectations I think should be high because we're all experts, but at the same time, this is a first for most. Next up, we have Trisha Hershberger, who honestly I best describe as like a Swiss Army knife of gaming. Like, what does she not do? She's hosted things, she's been a moderator, she's on panels, she streams, she does content. She's just an all-around gaming rock star. Trisha, thank you so much for being here.
That's so nice of you to say. Thank you for having me, Nick. It's my pleasure.
Thank you. Well, you know what? This panel, we've tried to create the most diverse group we can in terms of what our roles are in esports and maybe how this is each affecting us differently. So I think Trisha will have some really interesting insights on what it's like being a full-time influencer and a mom, which I really can't wait to hear about. And last but certainly not least, we have Freya Fox. Hello, Freya. Thank you so much for being here. Freya is pretty much a influencer, a marketing guru. She has used her own skills to not only make herself a gaming influencer, but to create all sorts of content that her fans love. But Freya has been impacted, like many other freelancers, by COVID-19, right? She got a full schedule of things, of events, and now all that's gone. Now she's on a panel with me online. So thank you so much, Freya, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So, and I guess I should introduce myself. Hello, I will be moderating this panel. My name is Nick Durazio. If you've ever been to IGEC or been a fan of IGEC, you know me. I host, produce it. I'm the director of corporate strategy at Inven Global. I've really been trying to lead the team into this digital pivot that we all have to do, and I'm just really, really humbled to be here with this panel of experts. So, that being said, this is our very first IGEC panel, and we really just have to address the big thing, like in the world right now, this pandemic. We're all quarantined, right? We all can't leave our house, and esports has felt very weird in the past 2 weeks. And I'd say out of all of the people who have felt that, Scott, it's got to be you, right? Riot has such massive esports broadcast, and a big part of what you've been trying to do as Esports Tech Lead is bring a sense of normalcy back. Fans still want to tune into League, they still want to watch. So what are some of the things that you have been doing and Riot have been doing to try to make esports feel normal again?
Yeah, we were actually affected early with our LPL league in China. They were taken off the broadcasts first, and so that gave us a bit of a head start. But we have been scrambling as best we can to, as you said, bring back a sense of normalcy. I was thinking about this last night. Technology is enabling us to participate in this virtual panel right now. So technology is the first thing we look towards to bring esports back and create entertainment in this really difficult period of time in history.
Yeah. And what are some of the most pressing, I guess, technological problems you guys have had to solve?
Sure. Like most folks that are in their houses, when we produce events at a global scale of Riot Games, we're used to hardware, equipment, buttons to press. And the first thing we encountered was that our operators weren't able to be near the equipment. And then that seems crazy if you've ever produced, an event at the scale of Worlds or any of our regional leagues. So that was our first challenge. We looked heavily towards public cloud, moved a lot of our resources and our operations into Amazon Web Services. And that has actually allowed all 4 of our major regions to go back on the air as of today. Last night, I'm super proud to say our Oceania League was able to restart as well. But they had to build everything from scratch in public cloud. So it's unprecedented, the amount of work that has gone in by these engineers around the world.
Yeah, I absolutely love the fact that you mentioned pushing buttons, because someone on this panel knows a lot about pushing buttons. Well, fighting game buttons, for that a matter. And
right.
if there was one esports community that maybe is having the hardest time with this pivot, it has to be the fighting game community. It has to be the FGC. The heart and soul of fighting games is in-person tournaments, massive events like EVO, weekly events like Wednesday night fights. These are the things that people go do every single week. I frequent tournaments all the time, and I haven't been to a Smash tournament or a Street Fighter tournament, ever since this whole thing started. So, Gootecks, I would really love to hear because you've been through a lot of ebbs and flows with fighting games. You've been in the shrinking phases, you've been in the expanding phases. What phase are we in now? Is this just another shrink that you think the fighting game community can survive, or are there other ways in which the fighting game community can evolve?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say that, because our community has been around for going on 3 decades, sort of before the rise of esports, before being able to play online, I think that we'll basically just adapt to whatever the world throws at us. And it is true that our events are primarily in person. And even though there's a lot of online events that are going to be popping up in the near future, mine included, I think what'll end up happening is that once the world starts to get back to normal, everybody will go back to playing offline at tournaments. However, this still gives a lot of different communities within the FGC an opportunity to produce online events in a time where everybody is. And one of the things that I noticed yesterday, or a couple days ago, Ally, who's one of the strongest players of all time, as well as his company Level Up, produces Wednesday Night Bites, which is one of the longest running weekly tournaments in the country. He had posted something on Twitter saying like, hey, you guys all say you want to be content creators, right? So why don't you guys that are just doing offline events, why don't you just start doing online events? And so I think that there exists a possibility where we could actually come out ahead, because there's now more people, let's say more groups streaming. Because one of the arguments that I hear oftentimes about why fighting games aren't bigger is just the sheer number of streamers is not as big. So if you start to increase your total number of streamers, even if they're like small because they're local communities, you're going to have a lot more organic reach for people who are just not really, maybe they just didn't care before, but now they're stuck at home and their buddy is playing in this online tournament. Of course they're going to watch. So, it's definitely a really, really, really difficult time for a lot of the bigger tournament organizers, like for example, Alex Jabali, who runs CEO in Orlando. He did his big Smash Brothers event, Dreamland, at sort of like the beginning of the shutdown. And, you know, I know for sure that, it seemed like they got hit really, really hard. So I definitely feel for all of those events. I mean, Evo, I think, is one of them, even though it's later in July. But hey, you know, I mean, this could be something that persists through the summer. Who knows? I mean, depending on how you interpret the data and the charts.
And, you know, it's important to note, too, that even say, you know, like, let's just say by the time Evo, all this is done and we found the vaccine and all that, well, it's still not going to adjust the climate. It's still not going to, you know, change all of, you know, like, I don't want to be too dramatic, but the trauma of this whole event. A lot of people are very scared. A lot of people are going through a hard time. And I'm actually really interested in how that climate affects work like yours, Trisha. Because from what I know about your content, you know, it's lighthearted. You know, you really bring a lot of joy to people through a gaming. But it's got to be hard now. It's got to be hard to continue viewing games and playing games with the same sense of frivolity and fun when, you know, you can't leave your house. And I believe you were telling me earlier, you know, you still have kids to take care of. You now, your kids can't go to school and give you that time. So how has this been affecting your audience and your business?
Yeah, it's a lot different. I know for a lot of content creators that are streamers, a lot of them are saying, you know, my schedule hasn't changed that much because I'm still streaming from home. But for me, I have a tiny human. He just turned 3 in February, and he requires constant attention. Now, normally 4 days a week, he goes to preschool, and that gives me the time during the day to produce the content that I want to produce. In addition to streaming to Twitch, I make content for a variety of other brands, and they still are expecting their content to be delivered by a certain time. But now I have to do that while simultaneously kind of running a daycare out of my home for my child. So whereas I used to have an 8-hour day to produce content at the rate that I was doing it before, plus all of my own social media, now I have about a 2-hour nap in the middle of the day, which is going on right now, which is why I can do this panel. And I have after he goes to bed at 8 p.m. at night. So every now and then I will get an hour, say, where I jump on stream, and I'll title it like Quickie Surprise Stream. And I'm very real with my viewers. And I say, you know, I'm going stir crazy. Today was a really hard day mentally, and I just really want to play some Ori and the Will of the Wisps to unwind. And thank you all for being here with me for that. So I try to keep things still in a very positive light, but I don't want to be, I don't want to be insincere with my audience. I do think this is hard for everyone. Like I just tweeted out and did an Instagram post yesterday just saying, like, legit, I'm like, this is really starting to get to me. These are the things I'm doing to cope. What are you doing to cope? Because I think it's important for people who do have some kind of influence or outreach or viewership that they can share their very real experience with their following. And it's nice that we have gaming to kind of unite us all on that.
Yeah. And, you know, it's an interesting note that you I mentioned how a lot of the times you're just being very real with your audience. And this kind of coincides with some stats I've seen on Twitch that the just chatting section is booming. Because, you know, I think there's at this point a higher need. You know, if you're a gaming influencer, your fans might be looking towards you, towards like some sort of comfort, right? And this leads into, I guess, my next topic, and I'd love to ask you this question, Freya, because while yes, some streamers haven't, you know, they haven't seen much interruption, they're just grinding out League of Legends games still, and it's still all gravy. A big part of your work was going towards events, was traveling towards, going towards things, and then documenting your travels there. And so how have you managed to not only deal with the fact that your schedule of events have just been cleared, you have all this free time, how do you still make being a full-time freelancer work? I mean, maybe in a climate where people are just like, they don't want to do, they want to just chat about what's going on. How do you still make that work?
Yeah, Yeah, so I started off the year with CES, and that was huge. And it was like, there were so many great high hopes for the rest of the year. Everyone was happy and like, oh, all these great gaming products are coming out, and so many things are going to happen in esports. And then that was a huge part of the conference. It kind of, I think, set the tone for the rest of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And then this happened, and it just kind of turned the whole world upside down. I didn't know what to do, and so I was thinking, I had a plan to go back and to compete in Smash and to do different events and stuff, but they're all canceled, so I can't do that. So to be able to adapt, I've started doing marketing consultancy and helping people with PR and influencer marketing and just all the different skills that I've learned. Being a content creator and being a streamer, I've been able to apply them and help other businesses in ways that I never imagined. A lot of it is helping them do their marketing and getting themselves in front of customers right now in a way that they haven't thought of, or utilizing influencers, because that's, honestly the fastest way to get a branded message out there. So I've been able to help guide people that way. But one interesting thing that happened recently was, I don't know if you read, but I think yesterday Razer's CEO said he wants gamers to use their streaming background and their knowledge to help local businesses and just businesses in general learn how to stream, because that's where the future is probably going, and it's definitely here now, right? There's a lot of businesses, online education, even restaurants, can benefit from this, where they're going to be able to connect with their customers or their fans in real time. And that actually came into play just very close to home. My mom, she's a psychologist, and she's been impacted in a way that she never thought of, where, her clients can't see her anymore in person, but she's in really high demand because of all the stress and all the situation. So I went over to her home office that she made a makeshift one, and I let her borrow my other streaming gear, the extra stuff that I had, and I taught her how to use. I think she's using Zoom, so she could use that, and I taught her how to live stream on her social media and stuff like that, so she can reach people and be able to have a good tech setup, so she's able to see her clients and have that personal feel.
So Ryan, I noticed that your head was nodding a lot. That was something that you seemed to really agree with. Have you also experienced that same type of need for your particular level of expertise when it comes to live streaming and creating content? Like, have people been asking you for help?
Yeah, I think there's a huge need for sure. Like, that was kind of one of the first things over the past 2 or 3 weeks that I could identify as as an area which I got a lot of expertise and I can help a lot of people. Mm-hmm. The challenge, I guess, Freya, I'd be curious. It's awesome to help our moms and stuff, but I'm curious as to how you kind of got that started with people outside of your immediate circle, because for example, we probably all have similar backgrounds and skill sets when it comes to the production of live streams, right?
Except for me, this is my first.
right. You could have outsourced this to any of us.
Yeah, I know, right? I could have asked you guys.
But I've been struggling with, I guess, trying to figure out how to set all of that stuff up, because I've spent most of my career doing content rather than doing consulting, and even though I've done a lot of influencer marketing, I've done a lot of all kinds of stuff, but it's but let's say somebody paying me to help them with their digital streaming strategy, obviously I think I'm just as good, if not better than anybody else, but at that aspect, but I'm very inexperienced when it comes to getting those first couple of clients. What did you do?
So
it was all networking. I've never ran ads for anything like that or done anything paid. It was just a lot of networking. Before I became a streamer, I had a marketing agency, so I guess in a way I was able to leverage those contacts a little bit. But it's really about thinking about what areas that you can cross-pollinate in. And for me, the most obvious need was for online entrepreneurs, people that are like your guru type, I'm sure you know who I'm talking about, your Shopify gurus, your people who have, masterminds and things like that host these big events that are already doing kind of online content, but they never really took it in a way that they need to right now. Or it could be a business that is, they're just transitioning into e-commerce or doing things like that, and you can kind of bridge the gap between those two things. So that's what I was able to do, is reach out through LinkedIn and through Facebook groups with different entrepreneurs in different industries, and let them know, hey, there's a way that we can collaborate and I can help you. So
yeah,
I think that's really where it's been, going outside of gaming and really thinking, way outside the box.
Yeah, and just to kind of add on to that, because as you made those points, it actually made me remember what Inven Global and I've been doing. I've noticed a big surge on LinkedIn. I've always had a LinkedIn, because that's, part of the job, but I see literally there's more and more people using LinkedIn for like what its intended purpose is. There's a lot of people on LinkedIn making just posts about like, how can we collaborate? What can we do? And that a LinkedIn post is actually what got me, and I'll show the event here. We're actually doing a speedrunning event that benefits a COVID-19 vaccine development. So we're a partner with a really big speedrunners, and this is something that just came from me making a LinkedIn post, essentially saying, hey, I want to help. And one of my really, really old contacts that now works in rare disease advocacy, she was like, oh my God, I know esports is big, I know gaming is big, I have this charity group that they have this really cool thing. And then that's how it got started. So I think a lot of what I've been seeing is, the more I sit there and I just post on Twitter, on LinkedIn, and I just say something like, this is what I can do, I have access to a lot of these so-and-so, what do you guys want to do? A lot of people seem to be responding to that. Yeah. So with that said, though, the one thing that we cannot get rid of, and that will always happen, is there is literally government mandated social distancing, right? And this is literally a ramping up. It's getting higher and higher. And I'm interesting to ask you, Scott, because I know that Riot has been having to deal with this on a global scale. How does esports navigate this new world of increased government intervention that says you cannot do this, you cannot show up in person, you cannot have players play? I've heard some horror stories of players being flown out to places, only be told you cannot play, and then they have to fly back, right? So how do you think esports should handle that?
First and foremost, the safety of our players, our fans, our crew is paramount. Riot was early. We actually predated some of the government restrictions by putting in place distancing and removing live audiences from some of our events. Riot prides itself on taking that very seriously. So that was never an option. We could never cut a corner. But now that we have governments backing us up and saying this is serious, it's allowed us to kind of pivot how we would produce our content. And I want to double click on something that you said, Freya. I think no one should underestimate their expertise in producing content, because that, I'll admit, being very humble, it's been a challenge. Because we're used to doing it at a different scale, and it's not a bigger, better, it's just different. We're having to learn some of the things that I think streamers take for granted. And it's really, it's eye-opening and super humbling for us to see how content gets created and without the pocketbooks of a Riot Games. But it's super exciting because we're finding new ways to do things that I think a couple of years ago we probably wouldn't have even tried.
I'm so glad that you said the word humbling, because again, this is my first time setting up a stream. I felt that exact same feeling. I was literally saying, like, how do people do this? How do people manage all of this stuff, still have it be high quality, all these different sources and streams, while they're also being entertaining, while they're also gaming? You're totally right. The type of events I produce they're large in scale, but it's just so different, right? I have 6 months to prepare for 3 days of incredible in-person content. So it's very different having to shift from this week to week, almost day to day. What are we going to do? And I know that Ryan has been living in that world for a long time. Ronnie's been living in the world of trying to create amazing content with little budget, without the deep pocketbooks of computer esports, right? Of PC esports, of this world of FPS and MOBAs. So now that we've kind of stumbled upon, and I really do think Freya made a great point about the value of that and how you can help people. Ryan, what do you think are some of the skills that the fighting game community knows and their content creators know that they should really be thinking about right now, that they should really be, you know, this is my strength and I can keep doing this and maybe even help the rest of esports?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say that for us, for, you know, FGC content people, it's really about being able to, or I guess one of the things that I've always appreciated about our scene is that without big corporate budgets, we have to be really scrappy and really DIY with everything, which means that a lot of the guys that I've worked with over the years in our scene are really, I guess they're really, I don't know, like MacGyver-ish, but you know, like we could make a stream out of a tin can and a banana, you know, like so it's like I guess for us, it's really like, okay, well, the way I see it is this is kind of a great equalizer when it comes to media and content, right? Because up until a couple of weeks ago, all the stuff that you were seeing on CNN and Fox News is always like super well produced in a big fancy studio, right? But what happens when everybody looks as shitty as we do, right? Like what happens when you're used to watching your favorite news anchor, you know, all dolled up with the makeup and the nice lights and the nice camera, but then in a post-coronavirus world, they're doing stuff like we are, and not to take anything away from what we're doing, because obviously like there's a lot of value here, but it's like, how are they going to continue to justify these absurd, you know, advertising prices when we know that advertising in gaming or just on the internet in general is a way better bang for your buck because you can actually track the impact. Mm-hmm. So it's like for us in FGC, it's like, well, big budget stuff is coming down, and we're kind of coming up because those of us that have been, you know, like let's say probably everybody here on this call, you know, has been doing it for years with, you know, very, you know, with like prosumer or consumer grade hardware, right? Yeah. And now everybody's in the same boat, and I think that this is going to be one of this. I mean, this is the hot take, right? But the grip that mainstream media has on this country is just, this is the beginning of the end, because all these people are going to be stuck at home. And like, for example, tomorrow on Twitch is the Stream Aid event where they're going to bring in all these artists and gamers, and there's going to be a lot of people out there that today don't know Twitch is a thing, and tomorrow are going to be like, wow, this is amazing. Why have I been wasting my time watching TV? This is way more interesting.
You know, I just want to piggyback off that, and then we actually have a question from one of our viewers. So first, have you seen the Dr. Phil show? He's doing it in his home, and it is hilarious. And it's not like hilarious because it's like, oh, look, it's so bad, but like it's just Dr. Phil on a webcam interviewing his person on a webcam. That's the Dr. Phil that I would watch. Well, yeah,
I'm not going to watch Dr. Phil on TV.
And that's the thing. Yeah, it's so much more compelling for someone. I mean, I haven't watched Dr. Phil in forever, but for some reason, it's like, I don't know, the medium, it just makes more sense. It's more raw. I just see like Dr. Phil in his home. It's just really incredible. So first, I want to say that is totally true. And let's move to this a question here. So this comes from Scribs AF. He asked, how should media people within the esports industry be dealing with this? What can we do in the interim for leagues and or some of these smaller tournaments? So just to unpack that, I assume he's talking about journalists. He's talking about media people who write articles. You know, people like Inven Global. Would anyone like to tackle this question, or perhaps I should? I guess I work in media.
People who were like used to traveling or used to covering all of these big esports events are now have less stuff to write about.
Yeah, and you know what? So here is throughout my career, the way I really started is I found out that there is literally always a story going on. There's always a human story within esports and gaming. And that really helped me differentiate myself from my peers, because my peers relied on a tournament or relied on some event or relied on patch notes. They were essentially waiting for the game industry to give them something to write about. So it's like, yes, technically that's reporting, but right now you should be reading Reddit, you should be in Discord, you should be on Twitter, you should be looking at what people are saying. What is the human stories going on? Because there's a lot of fascinating things happening, right? There's a lot of fascinating stories that you can unpack. And I'll also say one thing more. There's a lot of digital leagues happening, and that's great. The type of questions that esports journalists are used to asking aren't going to work in this digital environment. A lot of, and these are the questions that focus on the game. Oh, you chose this build, why'd you do that? Or this, that really only becomes something players care about when the storyline is enhanced by the in-person event, the commentators, the hype. I truly, truly believe if you're trying to cover one of these leagues, you cannot ignore the elephant in the room. You should ask about, what's it like playing online from your home? How are the nerves like when you play with bare feet, right? What's it like with your team when you can't see them in person? What are some, you need to be addressing the fact that things have changed. If you're just trying to report as normal, it's not going to work. So Scribs AF, I hope that gives you some advice on how you can, continue helping esports. One other thing, I guess, that in Scribs kind of inspired me by this question. There's a lot of esports leagues that now have the chance to get some limelight. There's a lot of leagues that maybe couldn't compete with some of the big marketing of Overwatch League, and I know that you mentioned this. Freya, do you think there's a chance that an influencer and a content creator, and I guess I'll pass this question to you too, Trisha, have you guys thought about or explored a diving into some of these more indie games, or maybe games that normally you would never even touch, but now that it's more online and now that there's less big events to go to, how does it feel like for you guys when trying to figure out which games you should be focusing on right now? And I guess, you guys can both answer if you'd like.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I do a lot of work with indie games in general. Mm-hmm. I do a show on Twitch every Tuesday morning called the Twitch Gong Show, where it's basically an indie game showcase, and the audience gets to vote via emoji in chat whether they think a game should be gonged or they love it, and it's a Gong Show winner. So I absolutely love that indie games have been getting the spotlight a little bit more. Steam had the free weekend for so many games that would have been showcased at conferences but lost their opportunity. And I see a lot of people getting more into games than they were before. And I think it's great because there's some indie devs who may not have been able to get featured at a GDC or via an IndieCade or Indie Mega Booth or something like that, now having that opportunity to shine. So I'm all for it. I'm always showcasing indie games, so it's hard for me to gauge whether or not other people are getting more into them. Because my audience kind of centers around that. But yeah, Freya, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on the indie game scene and all of this.
Yeah, I think the indie game scene will have a huge opportunity right now, since it's like you said, there's a great equalizer and everyone's on Steam. So, I think with Steam being able to support them, there's a big chance here. One type of indie game I think that might do really well are people that are doing VR stuff.
Yeah.
Especially if VR chat was kind of indie-ish until it became big. And I think if there's more worlds like that exist where people might have to replace what was normally social in a VR environment, hey, there's a huge opportunity right there, right? Because VR chat, I'm sure, is exploding with new users. And if more indie devs start coming out with stuff and maybe more support for different hardware that's coming out at the same time, we might see a very Sword Art Online type of world happening. So, and even if they're not making a dedicated game, maybe they're able to make ancillary products or just kind of band together and make things for like a bigger picture. It doesn't have to just be one giant VR chat, one giant Minecraft type of indie dev going into it. It could be them putting their resources together and saying, hey, let's replace restaurants. I don't know, something like that would emulate the same type of feeling that you could have gotten before.
Yeah. I just want to throw out right now, if anyone here is listening and you decide to use VR chat as a work from home solution with the rest of your peers, please reach out. That sounds like a very, very interesting story to write about. And speaking
That's the stuff you're talking about, right, Nick?
Yeah, right.
Looking for the human element in the story.
You have to, because now, and you know what, I have a question for you, Scott, after this that I think you would enjoy answering based off some conversations we've had before. But yes, Ryan, I strongly believe that in order for gaming right now to keep its positive momentum, we need to read the room, so to speak. People care more about their friends and their family and themselves and the human element of everything now. Like, maybe in the past you didn't really think about the effect of this consumer thing or this consumer thing on people, but now it's the complete opposite. So yeah, I think the more and more gamers and content creators can do that, I think the better your content is going to reach and really get engagement. No one's going to sit there and want to click on your top 5 best video games article anymore, because it's like, what, really? We're still talking about that? You realize this a little bit?
Yeah.
Speaking of how things have changed, though, the work from home reality is something that hits us all, right? I know that me and Scott, we work in corporate environments, right? Like, I have conference calls every day, and it seems it's this whole new adjustment. Scott, how have you been adjusting from now working from home? And do you have any advice or, any tips on people who now have to make this adjustment? Because I know that part of your pedigree is solving this problem, right? Like, you use your expertise to help Riot work from home. So what are some of the things you guys have been doing?
Sure. So I support a team of about 11, and this is all new for us too. And I think one of the first things we all came to terms with was that we tried to be as productive as we were in our old environment the next day working from home, and that wasn't realistic. And I think something that resonated with me was an article I read. I think it was Lifehacker on you do not have to be productive right now. And I sent that to the whole team, and it was something that was really important for me to say, because I wasn't feeling productive either. I'm in the house again, but when we did our pre-call, I was in the garage because that's 2020. And I realized if I'm having this much of trouble adjusting, I'm sure my team is too, and so is everyone else around the world. And I think the only takeaway I took is give yourself time. Check in with yourself and do the best you can in these weird circumstances we're in, but don't put too much pressure on yourself. And that's helped immensely. And then, funny enough, once you do that, then the innovation comes. Yeah. Then you start to find new ways to do things, and it's really exciting, and you get that passion back. But it won't come right away.
Yeah, I know that Ryan, I believe maybe when I was on your show. By the way, Ryan has this fantastic live stream that he started. Actually, can you talk a bit about that? This whole concept of hustling from home now. I would actually love to dive in that to a bit, because this is one of your strategic pivots that you think really is gonna be the future for the next who knows when. So can you kind of talk about how you've been keeping active from home?
Sure. Yeah. In thinking about the shift that we're all going through right now of a lot of people just working from home, I've been working from home for as long as I can remember, just doing, social distancing. I mean, we just called it being a loner, I guess. But, there's really not a whole lot of difference on the surface. I mean, obviously it's quite limiting to not be able to go anywhere or do anything. But I could see that a lot of the skills that I developed over the year, is it even a skill? I don't know, but I'd
say it's a skill to be able to work from home.
It's a skill.
A little bit.
Ryan is being modest right now, so I have to interrupt him. He's actually extremely productive during this period. Ryan has set in motion several things, and so it's I think that you are actually a pretty good example of maybe when we all get used to working from home for as long as you have. I mean, maybe we will be able to have confidence in our ability to be as productive as we once were.
Yeah, I mean, all I could see was just a lot of opportunity, because all of a sudden work from home is like a real topic of conversation. And I don't know about you guys, but I've been on not lots, but I've been on more than a few video calls, either on Zoom, which, you know, in gaming, at least in my experience, was not really too much of a thing. But between Zoom and Facebook Messenger, you know, I'm doing a lot of calls with a lot of my normie friends, and so you know, there's a lot to be said. You know, it's kind of cute. You know, you see them, and they got like 10 people on the call, and like some people are just holding their phones. Everybody's talking at once. Nobody has a headset. Nobody has a webcam, and everybody's just like, haha, this is really fun, right, guys? But it's like those people are, you know, really new to it, and that novelty is gonna like fall off so quickly. So it's like one of the things that I was trying to do, I guess pivot, yeah, sure, is showcase more of like what I'm doing on a day to day, which is, you know, hustling from home, and so me and my co-host Jackie, we've been doing this for so long, but it's never been something that I was trying to put out there.
But now eyes in a way, on you.
Yeah, well, I mean, not that many eyes. Like nobody watches our shit, but it's fine. Like, who cares? Because if we just figure out better ways to do it, we'll get the message out there. And you know, one of the early thoughts that I had was like, okay, can we make working from home the next mukbang, right? Like, because it's like, you know, I'm here all the time anyways, and it's like, you know, people who will watch mukbang, it's like they're like eating along too, right? So maybe if we set an example for, number one, like how we're operating, as well as sort of being much more transparent about everything, because now it's actually, I've noticed quite an increase in opportunities to work with people, just because the people, like those of us that are already in gaming that weren't working from home, now everybody's stuck, and now everybody's super hungry. So I can see a lot of potential in that, because there's so many more people now that are trying to do what we've been doing.
So Ryan, it's interesting that you brought that up, because I've always had this idea. I've been an esports journalist for the past 8 or 9 years now, and I always had this idea that it would be fascinating if you just live streamed the process of researching, writing, and then, you know, creating a column about something that matters. I think a lot of people would be really fascinated by what it looks like to rewrite, what it looks like to go and make. But you know, there's so much sensitive information that it's really not something I ever really figured out. But that is a good idea, this concept of working from home being a more, you know, streamed content thing. That being said, I'm really interested in the future of influencer marketing when it comes to gaming and esports, right? Because we've all, you know, lived through that 2014 to 2018 golden year when it seemed like influencer marketing was just the hottest thing in the world. That was the greatest thing to be, right? And, you know, that, I'm not that it fell off, but it wasn't as a meteoric rise as it was. Nowadays, though, it seems as if there is a possibility that influencer marketing, especially within gaming and esports, is on the rise. So, Trisha, do you think that's something that you can expect? Like, you know, like, can you expect your type of services in showcasing games maybe sponsored content this time? Is that something you see on the rise?
Most definitely. I've kind of seen brand inquiries for influencer work gotten crazy across the board, whether it be Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, whatever. I think there's a lot of people that maybe didn't dabble in social media marketing before that are now like, well, I guess this is my only option, time to do it. And especially for brands that are not event centric. And what I mean by that is entertainment brands that want you to tune into the content on their streaming service, video game devs and publishers who want you to check out their new game. In those categories of things that your everyday person is really driving up their how much they're using it and consuming it at this point, those are the brands that are hungry for that. Now, at the same time, I think that we're seeing brands also be cautious because they don't know financially where they're headed.
Yeah.
Everyone kind of feels like we might be on the verge of some kind of huge Great Depression, so they don't know that they want to blow all their marketing budget yet. So I've kind of seen this split between people who are hungry and think now is the time to jump on marketing, and the people who think I'm going to hold all my marketing budget for the quarter just in case everything goes awry. But then that'll be interesting when this all lifts and kind of we're coming back out of this to see if Q3 and Q4 influencer spend from big brands is suddenly ramped up because of everything they saved during this time. So I think it's a little bit of a two-pronged approach, but certainly people who know how to stream content or know how to work from home, as we were just mentioning, and still keep that productivity and kind of keep that sanity around everything, I think are at a real advantage right now.
Freya, I'd actually love to also give you the opportunity to chime in on that, because I'm sure you have some insight on where you think influencer marketing when it comes to gaming is headed.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of inquiries for TikTok, surprisingly. Not so surprisingly, I guess, because it's been the hot topic of 2020 and late 2019. So I've been seeing a lot of brands asking for TikTok content because it's short, it's straight to the point, and people are spending more time watching TikTok and live streams now than they ever have before. And so yeah, I'm seeing a lot of innovation there on what people can do in 15 seconds or 30 seconds, and having brands do that. I did an ad for like a Swedish company. They have it's like a loan forgiveness, or they do like quick loans in Sweden. But they asked me to do it, with a gaming twist to it, and do some dance and stuff like that, and they paid me, and it was really interesting.
Wow.
So and that's not a company that I would ever think would want to reach my fan base, but they did. And so yeah, there's definitely a lot of companies that could benefit from it, and the same thing as Trisha said, some of them really don't want to spend, and I've seen that, and they said, "Hey, no, cancel it. We're not doing anything else." And then there's some who see this as, this is the time to do it for sure.
Yeah.
Because by the time we're out of it, then we're going to be ahead of everyone who didn't do anything. And then there's a third category of people who are panicking, who didn't build an online presence, who had no way to convert their event-centric or very heavily offline user base into an online thing.
Yeah.
And I think there has to be a pivot from those two. The people that are holding on to it, yeah, maybe they will spend bigger in the end of the year, and let's hope that's true. But I think it's really the content is going towards places like TikTok and live streaming more than ever.
And I just want a quick aside. If anyone listening or watching the VOD that we posted this later, if any of you have never tried to make TikTok content, I suggest you try to do it, and you will gain an immediate respect for how hard it is.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
It's so hard.
It is
so hard. But is it hard because it's actually hard, or is it hard because we are maybe not in that demographic?
So
I think it's that.
I think I have an interesting insight of this, because before gaming and esports, I was a film editor. So I was a film editor for maybe 4 or 5 years, right? And TikTok is like film editing. It just is. TikTok is not only film editing, but it's acting as well. And on top of that, it's like dancing. There's so much dancing in TikTok. It's so like movement centric. And on top of that, it has to be synced to music all the time. I just think it's one of those social medias that I think the current generation that uses a TikTok all the time, like the young people, I just can't help but think that they're essentially being trained to be video editors. They're being trained to view the task of making content as something that isn't scary or that isn't intimidating at all. These are people who are going to know how to sync things with music, know what a beat is, know what a drop is. They're going to just have an internal sense of timing. So I think that's a really, really good point. I would have never thought a Swedish loan company would look towards a gamer, but it makes sense now, right? We have a question from one of our viewers that actually has to do with kind of what we've been talking about. Is there anything esports groups can do to prepare for when the isolation ban is lifted. It will probably be a very slow a process of gathering people again. So that's actually another good question, and it kind of leads to the rest of the tone in which there are some positives I'd like to talk about. So, Scott, do you have any insight on, say, for some reason, a miracle vaccine is implemented in the next month or so? What should we prepare to? I mean, do we go back to normal? Do we go back to putting on these big events? Because even if a vaccine is developed, the public, conscientiousness is still going to be, cautious. And one more thing, I also read that even if for some reason a COVID-19 is solved, it's still going to be around. There's still going to be outbreaks, and it's probably never going to leave, just like the flu. It's always going to be around. So what do you think esports should do if the scenario happens where we're maybe back to normal in the next 2 to 3 months?
Well, I won't speak for all of esports, but I will tell you that Riot has a 5-year plan for esports content production. We've been working on it way before coronavirus ever became a thing. But I do want to say is we're actually using this as an opportunity. We're trying to turn this horrible negative into as much of a positive as possible. And I will say that it has changed our 5-year roadmap. Our trajectory has not completely changed, because we kind of have already been kind of preparing for a new world of production, but it has actually been really helpful for us and accelerated our timelines. Wow. So we're not going to go back to the normal after this. We're going to use this as a learning period, and take some pretty big risks and some chances and come out of this stronger. And something I would just say is now's the time to take a risk. This is it. Don't miss it.
I think this is the new normal, really. I don't know if we ever will go back to what we thought was normal before. I think this is where it's going. And there's no way to justify the old normal anymore, in a post-corona world, right? Because then people are going to say, well, why should I go to work in an office? Why should we have these events in person when we clearly did it not in person before? We can do it that way. Why not do, we can have a mix. Maybe that's where the happy medium is. But maybe, like Ryan said, maybe with the FGC, we just MacGyver up, tons of, online content things and online tournaments, and then those become the qualifiers. Like Smash announced the World Tour was going to be this big thing, and then now it's not.
Smash.
Maybe they can still do it. And do it online.
Well, the challenge with that, it's really unfortunate because the
netcode.
So for those not familiar, part of the reason why FGC is built on in-person competition is not simply because it is descended from its arcade roots. It's also because generally the netcode for most fighting games
be together, right?
Generally the netcode is so bad in most modern fighting games that most top players consider playing online to be inferior and not worth taking seriously. And it's really unfortunate that all the big fighting game publishers don't really see it that way. They don't see the importance of good netcode because most of them are based in Japan, and when you have an area that's geographically a similar size to California, and your internet is good, your netcode doesn't need to be that good. And so to me, that's a huge opportunity for Riot specifically, because if Project L, because Project L is using GGPO rollback netcode, which is developed by the Cannon Brothers, who are also known
excited for that.
Yeah, they're also known for putting together this little tournament called Evo.
Just really small one.
Yeah, you've probably never heard of it. Nobody goes. There exists such an opportunity for Riot, and so Scott, I'm kind of curious to hear your thoughts or whatever you can share on that. Like, I've had conversations with, I don't know, high up people in these publishers, and they don't seem concerned at all. And I'd be like, oh man, I would be shitting bricks right now. And the fact that they aren't is kind of like, not to get too political, but it's kind of like, oh well, like Trump wasn't really concerned. The administration wasn't really concerned with coronavirus, and now boom, pandemic, right? So it's like all the fighting game developers that aren't using,
you don't want to undercorrect.
Yeah, like they don't really see the netcode as an issue for most of them, with the exception of Arc System Works, which is implementing GGPO into the next iteration of Guilty Gear. But for example, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, as far as I can tell, I mean, unless there's been dramatic improvements, it's dog shit, right? Like I had a Switch. I tried to play Smash. It was cool, but I'm like, well, I'm not going to leave the house to play this game, because I've been social distancing for so long. but it's like that game in particular, I think hit the hardest, and they were arguably bigger than the rest of the FGC combined.
Yeah.
So now that exists a huge opportunity for Riot to just be like, all right, guys, well, here's how you do it.
The best netcode we've ever created, and we're excited
Scott,
for it.
That'd be really interesting. Can you speak a bit about how Riot, views some of that embracing of that technology for their fighting game coming out?
So I won't speak to those teams, because we have a policy at Riot that if you're not on that team, you shouldn't be talking for that team. So I'm definitely not going to violate that. However, I will say netcode's extremely important to Riot. We've shared this in our launch of Project A. It's something that they've spent a lot of time on. So Riot's not sitting back and saying it'll just figure it out. We're making these investments now, so that whenever these things happen, which again I don't have visibility into, and they potentially become an esport, it's an extreme focus. I will bring up one note. Latency has been a big challenge for us in trying to resume play, but online, is because in certain areas and geographies, internet connections are not always reliable, and then distance between teams that are competing on the same match. So one game server, 2 teams, we can basically draw a circle and say, here's the competitive line. If you go past this line, it's no longer as competitive as we would require for this to be a professional play. So I mean, we're running into the same challenges. It's a little different on the netcode side, but just physics. We can't. If anyone figures out how to make physics, break the laws of physics.
The U.S. is large. The world is large. Wow. So this has been a really fantastic conversation. I know that there's so much more that I would love to talk to you guys about, right? Like there's so much expertise in this chat. So I just want to thank you guys again for joining. I think we have time for maybe a last comment from everyone. And I would like to start off with a question. I really enjoyed when Scott said it's a learning moment, right? Riot's using this as a learning moment, and I think everyone should be, right? I'm trying to learn new skills. I know that we all are. What do you guys think each, when it comes to someone trying to develop their place in esports and gaming? They want to have a career in esports and gaming, and maybe they're feeling extremely discouraged because they planned on going to GDC with a resume, or they planned on, going this. What do you think are some of the things that people should be learning right now in order to really, really take advantage of gaming and esports in 2020? And I guess, Ryan, I'm going to start with you. What do you think people should be learning?
I think people should be learning how to identify opportunities and then go pursue them. I don't personally, even though we're starting to see the infrastructure of having collegiate esports and high school and all this stuff, as far as I'm concerned, there are no rules, and the idea of taking a resume to a convention to sort of like network with people sounds like the highest possible risk you could take. It would be like it's like the IRL equivalent of saying, okay, I'm going to be the next ninja, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to blow $5,000 on my streaming setup. That's the equivalent. It happens
all the time. We're trying to give people advice away from that.
Hey, it must be nice to have that kind of money to throw away on a bunch of things that aren't going to make a difference. So my suggestion would be for people who want to get involved in esports to see all of this stuff that's happening as the best possible opportunity ever, because there's so many of us that are trying to either do more in some capacity, expand, or trying to shift. And so if you don't need a degree. I mean, I'm just talking about like for me personally. you don't need, I don't care if you got a degree. I like working with people that don't have jobs or that got laid off recently, because like they got time, they're hungry, they're motivated. And I value that more than I care about your training, because I believe like humans can learn whatever, but you can't, it's much harder to teach somebody to like take initiative or to be, or to take risks or to think for themselves and try to come up with solutions. Like whatever, like you just get enough practice on TikTok, you'll be a really good editor like Nick, right? So
I'm telling you, it's the same thing.
But people like I've recently, thanks to, let's say, connecting with somebody like Devin Nash, right? Like I'll have people from his audience reach out to me and be like, oh, hey, like I can do this or I can do that. I'm like, perfect. This is great. Like, you're just the person I was looking for. So anybody who's trying to get involved in that, it's like, well, figure out how you can reach out more and figure out how you can improve your skills to provide more value for the people that you want to work with. And, like I've worked with so many people that started out just working for free and eventually they get paid, or maybe some people are just trying to build their resume. It's fine. Like reach out and offer, because other people are just asking for handouts. Hey, can you retweet this? Or, but go out there and offer value and improve yourself, because now we're stuck at home.
All right, Freya, what should people be learning right now?
To piggyback off what Ryan said, personal branding, I think, is the number one key right now, more than anything. And that's where I get most of my clients from, is they saw, that me as Freya Fox is a personal brand. It's not who I am as Janelle. And you're like, oh, how do I do that? How do I do that for myself? Because so many of the clients that I've been able to help right now have been so deep in their corporate culture or in their business, whether that's a restaurant or it's like a SaaS company. I don't care what it is. But the CEO or the founder is like, oh my God, what do I do right now?
Yep.
Right? Like his team is gone, or their team is, basically not productive anymore. And so their challenge now is, okay, they're realizing that they have to have a personal brand for themselves. And that's the same thing that applies to gaming, esports. It doesn't matter what industry you are. If you yourself is not, a solidified brand as your own person, there's no way that you're going to be able to build that into this big company, if that's what you want to do, or if you're trying to get your foot into the door with a company. I've been on the hiring side in corporate. I used to be marketing director for a company, and I've seen people come in with resumes and stuff. And the first thing I do is I Google them. And if I didn't find anything about them, if I didn't find people vouching for them or testimonials or things like that, everything they told me in the interview would just kind of be like, I don't know if I should believe you or not. I mean, it's easy to talk a good talk, but it's harder to be able to show the results. And so kind of what Ryan said, maybe, some people who haven't done it before work for free or trade or just collaborate with people and provide so much value that whatever risk that the other person is taking by working with you, use that as your leverage to be able to put your foot in the door and say, hey, this is how I can fulfill a need that you have right now, and I'll just do it, and once you start doing that, you build your personal brand and you build your resume, and you're also able to get real world experience in a way that you probably couldn't have gotten before, because now everyone is at home and they're like, I don't have help.
That's so smart.
We're missing all of our team members, so we don't know what happened to them. Whatever the thing is that's causing that lack of productivity, step in and find where you can add to that.
Wow, I'm really glad I asked this question. I feel like I'm learning a ton. Trisha, I would love to ask you, what do you think people should be learning?
I mean, these are all fantastic points that were brought up already. But I would add to that, maybe reaching out to people on LinkedIn or more gaming-centric sites like eFuse, with any talent that you have. Kind of like Freya said, figure out where you can help and then market that. I can't tell you, because I own my own production company too, how many people in the past 2 weeks I have brought onto my team just from like a cold LinkedIn message where they said, hey, I do graphic design. Here's a demo reel of my work. If you need anything updated. And then I think, now's actually a great time to update my overlay. Or Twitch just said that we need a new channel trailer, or, anything like that, where maybe the people that I would normally work in office with aren't suddenly available. So if you have skills like that, or if you think you might be interested in having skills like this, YouTube is free. You can self-teach all day with YouTube videos and figure out how to edit, how to make graphic design, how to stream, how to TikTok, whatever it is that you want to do, and then reach out to people that you think you might want to work with and say, you know, like Freya suggested, if you message someone and maybe TikTok is their area of non-expertise, and you could reach out and say, hey, do you want to have an online presence? I'd be happy to manage a TikTok for you. I can explain to you how to film some stuff on your phone. You could send it to me and I could edit it together so that then you could release it. I can help you work on a production calendar and schedule, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh, man. I think that sounds like what I need. I need
like, wait, it never even occurred to me that somebody else could just do most of that stuff on TikTok instead of me.
Hard.
Yeah. I don't have ideas for TikTok because I'm not in that generation. I've thought about, hey, are there any teenagers that I can outsource this to and give me some ideas, man? Like I don't know what to do.
Yeah, it's like a digital equivalent of hiring someone to help balance your books, or just when you're trying to do something on your own, you need help. And there are people looking for opportunities. Scott, what do you think people should be learning right now if they want to try to, survive the new normal? Wow, the rollback into the panel title. We did it.
Well done, well done. I wouldn't dare tell someone what to learn. I would actually say what do you have passion in? Like I think Ryan, what you were saying, and it kind of boiled up, is we hire on passion. We don't hire on your credentials or where you've worked in the past. We don't really care. We want to see the passion, and it always comes through. If you ask the right questions, you'll figure out what gets you up in the morning and what makes you excited. And it's not where you go to work, it's not where you work, it's what you do. So I would say find your passion and then take a risk and just learn as much as you possibly can, because we don't have anything else to do right now. Yep. We're home, and I think, Trisha, you're right. YouTube's a great resource. And then once you find that passion, just dive in as far as you can. And then shameless plug, Riot's still hiring. Our pipeline has never been more full. So please, if you find your passion and it's something that we need, please apply.
Yeah. You know what? I'd actually.
Real quick, I just wanted. Wait. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, thinking specifically about finding one's passion. I have two suggestions. One that really helped me, which was The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, which is translated into like all the languages. But the other thing was that I heard this, I wish I remember where I heard it, but I heard it somewhere along the line where somebody said, if you want to find your passion, you need to think back to what you were doing, how you spent all your time when you were 9. And that is, whatever that was, that's what you need. That's where you need to head. And, it's funny. I thought about that. I'm like, what was I doing when I was 9? Oh yeah, I was playing Street Fighter.
Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah, I was playing StarCraft. I mean, esports, right? Yeah, like it was just me. I was learning esports. That's fantastic. All of this advice has been fantastic. If I could leave just one sliver, looks like we got a disconnect, but that's the end of the panel anyway. I just want to say thank you guys so much for being here. Something I once learned is, let me see if I can adjust. Oh, there you go.
Ding dong.
Hey, we're back, but now it's switched. So Scott is Gootecks and Gootecks is Trish. Don't worry, we were so close. We were so close. Don't worry. This is our first one. We had to have at least one tech difficulty. So I was once told that you should never expect to get paid to do something in esports and gaming if it's your first time doing it. And I just think it's so
totally.
True. Because
who gets paid their first time in esports for anything?
Exactly. But the thing is, there's lots of other industries that work like that. Entry-level gaming and esports jobs, they don't really exist. Anyone who gets an entry level, they've already been doing it as a hobby, as a passion. They've already been doing it for a long time. So that's what I would give. And I would love to now end this panel by saying thank you to all of you who tuned in. Thank you to all of us who are watching this on our site, Inven Global, or if you're watching the video on our YouTube. This is just the first of many panels. We plan on having an entire digital lineup of panels to help help keep spreading some good advice from experts like this. I just want to thank you so much. I would thank all of our panelists for coming. I had a fantastic time talking to you guys. And the last thing that I will plug is on March 30th, we are having our gold splits for a Cure speed run, a marathon. So if you are a streamer, if you ever wanted to try speed running, if you're a seasoned speedrunner, reach out to us. We have all of the overlays we can give you. We have all of the things we can give you, and we have some awesome partners that we're helping raise money for. So you can check this out on invenglobal.com, and you can follow us at invenglobal. Where can they follow you guys, or what are some things that you would like to direct people to before we sign off? To the rest
All right, I'll go first. Actually, Nick, before I plug myself, Nick, is there going to be like a podcast feed with this type of content?
Oh yeah, so I mean, you can see that on Twitch /invenglobal.com. You can also
like audio. No, like audio.
Audio. I'm
like
sure
podcast.
Like audio
I can take
only.
audio. I can take the audio. See, this is my first time doing this type of thing. But Ryan, this is not my first rodeo. I can figure out.
I was trying to give the people the opportunity to provide value by reaching out to you and saying, "Hey, I can help turn it into an audio podcast."
Perfect idea.
Yeah.
To anyone listening who wants to be involved in the IGEC 2020 digital panel series that's going to be going on for the next month or so, yeah, reach out. I'm sure there's things we could do. Nice one, Ryan, or as your at says, that girl Trish, because we've all been switched around.
Yeah,
So.
it's definitely that girl, Trish.
All right, so
Thank
I
you.
guess you can follow everyone at their ats here. Also, check out the article too. I have all their bios and things like that. Thank you guys so much, and thank you guys for tuning in at home. I'll see you next time. This has been me, Nick Drazio with Inven Global, signing out. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Later, guys.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye. Okay. Oh. Perfect. 1 second. We're all good. How do I...